A carry permit can stop protecting you the second you step onto the wrong sidewalk, the wrong parking lot, or the wrong private business. And this year, 5 states are either already enforcing or actively pushing rules that can turn your normal carry routine into a criminal case overnight. Pause. Quick question before we continue. Are you subscribed yet? Because these legal traps do not come with a warning label, and the people who find out late usually find out the hard way. Hit that subscribe button right now and make sure you do not miss the next update. Here's what just happened. Most gun owners still think the big legal question is simple. Do I have a permit? Yes or no? But that is not the real danger anymore. The real danger is method. How are you carrying? Where are you carrying? Is the gun on your body, in your vehicle, in a console, in a glove box, on private property, near alcohol, or briefly showing when your shirt moves? That is where states are getting aggressive. Let me break this down for you. First, New York. This is the state that should make every traveler slow down and double check everything. Most people think a carry permit means you can walk into a store, grab what you need, and leave. But in New York, the law made no carry the default on private property unless the owner says yes. Read that again. The default is no. That means if you walk into a grocery store, a shop, or even another business open to the public, you cannot just assume your concealed carry is fine. The property owner has to allow it. And New York also stacked up a long list of what it calls sensitive places. We're talking about bars and restaurants that serve alcohol, buses and subways, libraries, medical facilities, polling sites, public demonstrations, houses of worship, playground areas, and even Times Square. So imagine this. You drive into town, leave your handgun in the car for a minute, then remember, New York also says the gun cannot just be left sitting there loose. It has to be secured in a lockbox. That is how a normal day turns into a legal minefield. But here's the crazy part. A lot of people hear that these rules are being challenged in court and think that means they can ignore them. No. Until a court actually blocks a rule, you deal with the rule that exists right now. That is the mistake that gets people arrested. Here's what most people get wrong. They treat a pending court fight like a free pass. It is not. If you're in New York today, you act like the restriction is real, because for law enforcement on the street, it is. Now let's move to New Jersey, because this is where it gets even more specific. New Jersey does not just control where you carry, it controls how you carry. A permit there authorizes concealed carry, not open carry. That means the state is not just looking at whether you have the gun, it is looking at whether the gun is concealed on your person in a holster. And the law also blocks carry on private property unless the owner gives express consent. So New Jersey took the New York idea and made it part of a wider carry structure. Then it added more location problems. Government buildings, courthouses, schools, child care spots, entertainment venues, airports, public transportation hubs, healthcare facilities, bars and restaurants where alcohol is served, and yes, private property unless the owner says yes. Here's a hypothetical example to explain this. Let's say you are carrying legally in New Jersey. You stop for dinner. The restaurant serves alcohol. You do not drink a drop. You think you are being responsible. But the issue is not whether you drank. The issue is that the place itself may be off limits. Then you leave and walk across a private parking area to get back to your truck. If that property is covered and there is no consent, now you have another problem. This is why I keep saying the law is no longer just about owning the gun. It is about the path you take while carrying it. And there is one more piece nobody talks about enough. Open carry. A lot of people from freer states are used to a shirt shifting, a jacket riding up, or a quick moment where the grip shows. New Jersey says permit carry is concealed carry. That does not mean every tiny accidental exposure becomes a felony. The law does recognize brief incidental exposure in limited situations. But if you act like open carry is fine there, you are playing with fire. If you're finding this helpful, imagine what you'll learn in my next video about the exact phrases that can keep a routine police encounter from turning into a legal disaster. Subscribe now so you don't miss it. Third, Hawaii. And yes, Hawaii matters even if you never plan to move there because it shows the exact blueprint anti-carry states are using. After the Supreme Court's Bruin decision, Hawaii passed Act 52. On paper, it says it is just regulating carry. In real life, it targets the way you carry and where you move while armed. Hawaii says firearms are generally prohibited on another person's private property unless you have express authorization. That sounds familiar, right? Same basic trap. But Hawaii added more. Sensitive places, beaches, parks, restaurants and bars that serve alcohol, certain adjacent parking areas. It also says you cannot be drinking or under the influence while carrying. And it prohibits leaving an unsecured firearm in an unattended vehicle. Let me explain why this matters more than people think. Imagine you are a visitor. You have a legal firearm where you live. You assume a simple walk from your hotel through a parking area into a restaurant district is no big deal. In Hawaii, that route can cross multiple restricted zones before you even sit down. And if you leave the gun in the vehicle because you realize the restaurant is off limits, the gun cannot just be tossed into the glove box and forgotten. This is the part that shocked me. The law does not just punish bad intent, it punishes lazy assumptions. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Hawaii's law has already been in major court fights. The Ninth Circuit upheld key parts of it, including the default rule against carrying on private property without consent, and the Supreme Court heard arguments this year over whether states can keep using that kind of rule. But again, do not make the rookie mistake. Court fight does not mean safe to ignore. If you are carrying there right now, you follow the live rule, not the rumor you saw online. Now, quick legal note. This is educational information, not legal advice. Always consult an attorney for your specific situation. Fourth, Virginia. And Virginia is urgent because this is not old history. This is moving right now. As of this year, Virginia has had gun bills sitting on the governor's desk that directly affect how people store and transport handguns. One of the big ones is House Bill 110. In plain English, if you leave a handgun in an unattended vehicle, the bill would require it to be securely stored in a locked, hard-sided container. The state summary says that can include a locked glove compartment or locked center console. And the penalty is a Class 4 misdemeanor. That may sound small until you picture the real-world scenario. You pull into a public lot. Maybe you are heading into a place where carry is not allowed. Maybe you just do not want to bring the gun inside. In a lot of states, people toss the handgun into a console, close it, and move on. But in Virginia, if this kind of measure becomes law, those little details suddenly matter. Is it locked? Is it secured the right way? Did you assume your normal storage habit was good enough? That is how legal trouble starts. But wait, there's something even more important. Virginia also moved another bill that would restrict carrying and transporting certain firearms on public property. That means this is not just about storage in the car. It is also about what happens when you move from the car onto government-controlled or public spaces with the wrong setup. So if you're the kind of person who thinks, I'm fine as long as I'm not inside a courthouse, you need to slow down. Public property is broader than most people think. Parks, certain public buildings, other government-controlled areas. The phrase sounds harmless, but the effect can be huge. And this is the part nobody's talking about. A lot of gun owners only watch for giant national stories. Big Supreme Court case, big federal rule, big headline. Meanwhile, state bills like this can change your daily routine much faster. One governor's signature and your usual carry in the car habit is now a misdemeanor problem. Hey, 73% of people watching right now aren't subscribed. Don't be part of that group. Join the community of gun owners who actually stay ahead of these changes instead of hearing about them after the damage is done. Click subscribe right now. Fifth, Washington. This one is still in the proposal stage, but you need to watch it closely because it shows exactly where lawmakers are trying to go next. Washington has had a bill pushing secure storage requirements for firearms in vehicles and residences. In other words, the state is trying to tell you how a gun must be stored in your car and in your home. Critics argue that kind of rule can make a defensive gun harder to reach during a carjacking or home invasion. Supporters call it safety. But for you, the practical question is simple. If that bill becomes law, would your current routine still be legal? Think about that for a second. Maybe you keep a handgun in the vehicle while driving at night. Maybe you use a console safe. Maybe you stage a firearm in a way that makes sense for your personal defense plan. A law like that can suddenly say your method is wrong, even if your intent is completely lawful. And Washington has also pushed broader location restrictions around certain public buildings and park spaces where children are likely to be present. So the pressure is coming from both directions, how you store it and where you bring it. This is why I use the phrase certain carry methods, because states are no longer always saying you cannot own the gun. Sometimes they're saying you cannot carry it that way, or not there, or not on that property unless the owner says yes, or not if you leave it in your vehicle like that, or not if the place serves alcohol, or not if the holster setup makes the gun visible. Same gun, same person, totally different legal outcome. So what should you do right now? First, figure out whether your state treats private property as opt-in or opt-out. That single rule can change everything. Second, check whether your state only allows concealed carry and treats open carry differently. Third, learn the vehicle rule. Can you leave the gun in the car? Does it need a lockbox? Does the glove box count? Fourth, watch alcohol zones, hospitals, transit, schools, parks, and government property. Fifth, if you travel, stop assuming reciprocity solves everything. Reciprocity might help with the permit. It does not erase local carry method restrictions. Here's what most people get wrong. They study the permit map and stop there, but the permit map is just the front door. The real trap is inside the house. private property rules, sensitive place lists, vehicle storage rules, holster rules, open versus concealed rules. Those are the details that ruin good people. This information could literally change fast over the next few months. Subscribe now because the next video is going to break down the simple checklist you should run every single time you leave the house with a firearm, especially if you cross a state line. So here's the bottom line. In 2026, the danger is not just whether your state likes guns or hates guns. The danger is whether your normal carry habit matches the exact method the law allows. New York, New Jersey, and Hawaii already show how fast legal carry can shrink once private property and sensitive place rules expand. Virginia and Washington show how this year's bills can tighten the screws even more. Pause. If this video helped you see the trap before you stepped in it, subscribe and stay with this channel. I want you informed, prepared, and out of trouble. And one last simple reminder, this is general educational content, not personal legal advice. Before you carry, transport, or store a firearm, check your current state law and talk to a qualified attorney if you have any doubt.